this? Like, he was like, he was like, you just left me high and dry. And so his boss, was giving him kind of a compliment in a hidden way, like, I really appreciate you, I need you around. He said, make yourself known in that sense to where if you miss a day, they're like, oh man, what am I going to do? And he also said, pay your dues, which is an important theme that I'll kind of reiterate over it. It's not a short process. No one is a GM in 5 years. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And my boss is the youngest GM in the league. And he has been a scout for 20 years, It's just, you have to pay your dues, and it's going to happen, and it's going to, frankly, be not even remotely fun. And, but you have to keep the eye on the prize. Chris Polian, Director of Pro, get experience somehow. It'll come at the expense of time and money, but experience is key, because no one is going to bring on someone who just is coming out of the blue. It just doesn't happen. And Chris Polian is Bill Polian's son. For those of you who know who Bill Polian is, he's probably one of the greatest general managers of all time. He drafted Peyton Manning, so I'm not going to say any more, but that should solidify it. College level is probably the best starting point, because you're here and you're around it and you're going to class anyways. So go volunteer, say, I'd love to come in for a couple hours a week and just do whatever y'all need me to do. What you see on TV is not the job. There's a lot of glamour behind working in football, and especially working in the NFL. But when you get away from that glamour, what you don't see is, we're working. I get in at 7:30 in the morning, and I usually work, on average, 12-hour days. Mondays, 14, 15. Who knows? My bosses, grown men, spend so many nights sleeping on their floor. It's actually, I'm like, y'all want to bring in a sleeping bag or something? They roll up towels, and they just sleep on the floor. But they do that all the time, because that's the grind of the job. Yes, Sunday and Saturdays are super glamorous. It's, I'm working football, it's awesome. But on top of that, they don't show you when a scout is spending 150 days on the road, sleeping in moldy hotels, straight straight on the road, 4 hours of sleep, like just totally drained, miserable. You don't see that. So when you're going into it, you kind of need to keep that in mind. And he also said, be business-minded. At the end of the day, it's a business. So that's why I said I'm really glad that I was able to couple my sport management major with the economics, because it is a business at the end of the day. The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the largest industries in the world, and growing like crazy. And then Kyle, who is the director of college, said, whatever it is, do it with your ultimate passion. He said he was volunteering with the New York Giants, and he was cleaning jock straps after practices. And before practices, they had Canadian geese that would go all over their practice field. They would obviously use the bathroom. So his job before practice every morning was to go and hand pick up the Canadian geese. That's like what he did. He also told me a story one time where he was like, I was a scouting assistant, and I went 13 days without seeing the light of day. So he got in at 5 a.m., he didn't step outside once during the day, and he left at night, and he went 13 days without seeing the sun, which is actually kind of insane when you think about it. The glamour, same thing. Once you get past the glamour, you don't see what a grind it is the rest of the week. And the last part he said was be detail-oriented. Do your current job to the best of your ability. Too many people are constantly looking ahead and looking for their next big position. By doing that, you'll miss all that's right in front of you and everything you can learn from it. And it's true. So many people are like, oh, I'm volunteering, this is terrible, I gotta get, I gotta keep going, gotta keep moving. Even guys that are them, coaches who are coordinators. Oh, I'm a coordinator, but I gotta get that head coaching job, gotta get, don't get ahead of yourself. Do your job to the best of your ability. It's gonna teach you a ton. And then when you're done with it and you do get that promotion, like I was at Kentucky, I worked and finally got the break with the Jags. And I'm looking back on it, I'm like, I learned so much at Kentucky. And not in a corny way, I'm not being like, whatever, like I learned so much. I actually did learn so much from my time at Kentucky. So just keep that in mind as well. I think that's me. No. So the common themes, like I said, they're there. You're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to be passionate. Glamour fades, and it's a total grind. It really is. And not everyone is made for it. Not everyone is made for the grind of sports. But if you think you can handle it, it can be the best job in the world. So that being said, any questions? It's my spiel. Pretty well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You're from Kentucky, you said, and with the Texans, and now moving to Jacksonville. Has there been any hesitation in moving and kind of?
Not at all. No. That's actually a really good point. You have to be willing to move if you're gonna. Other sports, maybe not, but football. If you really want to go for it, you really want to do big things, and or at least chase big things, you have to be willing to move. Whether you're a coach, whether you're in operations, scouting, a player, players will be, if they're a practice squad guy and they're up and down and all over the place, they'll move. I couldn't even tell you how many times in a season, just going from team to team. Teams, then being on a practice squad, being pulled up to active on another team, and then being dropped and put back on a practice squad on another team. You have to be willing to relocate. Yep. Yep.
So you're on the computer a lot. So
yes.
Game weeks compared to non-game weeks, how much are you on the computer daily? Or is it just constantly you're looking up data, statistics?
Okay, so season, it's a lot of computer. Because with the advanced report, the waivers, statistics, everything, constantly looking stuff up for my bosses. Off season, it's a little more relaxed, and I'm doing more in terms of bringing the 30 guys in for official visits. I'm not constantly staring at statistics and pulling players up, but it is a lot of computer work, more than I thought more than you would think. And then the scouts, they're constantly in their chair watching film, have the Cowboys sitting back just watching film. I'm like, y'all are unbelievable, because they'll watch 6 hours of film straight and just not move, except to go to the bathroom. It's really, but coaches are the same way too. Coaches are constantly watching film, but they get up and they have practice and meetings and everything, so they're a little bit more active. But it's a lot of stationary for being a game of football. It's a lot of stationary.
What's the biggest challenges you face with that?
With being stationary?
Yeah.
I'm not even remotely a stationary person.
Okay.
Super hyper, super just all over the place. And my bosses actually give me so much grief for it. Are you okay? Oh, I just got a lot of energy right now. But that's just the type of person I am. But what you'll find is most people that are in that profession are exactly that way. They're in it because they love it. Most likely, the guys are there, they played it. They're not stationary people at all, but it's just kind of how it.
Are most of the guys above you, they ex-players? They all just business-minded?
No, most are players. My boss Kyle played at Harvard, played football and lacrosse at Harvard. Chris Polian played as well, and obviously comes from just a football family, so he's around it. A couple of our scouts, like Brian Simmons, I don't know if y'all know who that is, first-round draft pick, played with Cincy for years and years and years. He's one of our scouts. But there are definitely guys in there that didn't play. Our offensive coordinator, Jed Fitch, didn't play football in college, went to Florida, didn't play. Worked in the football office his whole, throughout college, but was not a player, but was around it, very, he's brilliant in terms of football. He's very football-minded, but he didn't play. But he's our offensive coordinator in the NFL, so there are...
But that's on the football side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not on the, what about the business side?
The business side is all, for the most part, business-minded people. You do have players on the business, ex-players on the business side.
That's rare, right?
Yeah, mostly you'll see ex-players want to stay on the football side because that's what they know. That's what they're comfortable with. You're an ex-player, you know the game. It's hard to let go, hard to let go of the game. So you'll find them on that side. But there are some guys who played on the business side, but on the business side, mainly business-minded people.
Okay, it seems like, working in the football industry is more like a male-dominant, the industry, in terms of the male-female ratio of the job. And as you can see, we have a lot of female students who are majoring in sport management and wanting to, work in the sport industry. So what would be your advice specifically for, the female students?
Well, the good news is for y'all is on the business side, there are, it is very even. There's still, okay, I don't want to say that because it is still football, so there are a lot of males. But there are a lot of females in the Jaguars. On the business side, there are a ton of females, which is awesome, and it's growing every year. It gets more and more and more. Our head of legal actually she's amazing, and she was actually just in Forbes 30 powerful, that issue they do with 30 is so powerful. I obviously really don't know about it, but I know she was in it, and she was one of the females that they featured for being in the NFL and the head of legal. So the floodgates have been broken. It's just kind of working our way there.
Are you, how many women are on the scouting side?
Me in my department.
Just,
Yep.
impressive.
And then our general manager has an assistant. Her name is Dana. But in my close scouting department, it's just me.
So you stand out.
A little bit. Yeah.
What's your dream job?
Probably my dream job would to be the DFO of Georgia, of course. No, I would love to go into football operations on a collegiate level, or continue the way I am in scouting on a professional level. Like I said, my position is different in the sense that I don't really think anyone has tapped into it yet. So I can continue to go that way. But football operations is also something I'd love to do, especially on a big level like Georgia.
How was your interview process for Jaguars?
Intense.
Yeah.
It was intense. I'm not even lying. They did not let up. 5'4" little girl. Actually, this is the greatest story ever. So our GM and our head coach walk into the room to interview me, and our GM goes, "You know who that is?" Points to our head coach, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the head man. That's head man." He was like, "Girl," I was like, "What?" Because you study and you're like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am so screwed." They were like, he was like, "No, it's not." And then they just paused, and they said I literally turned bright red, and they're like, "Oh, we're just messing with you, it is." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That is so messed up to do someone in their interview." My heart actually stopped. But luckily, it just goes to show they're awesome people, and I'm working in an amazing organization who will joke around like that, and now that I'm in it, I'm like, that was messed up of y'all. I just want you to know. But the interview process was intense. I got in, they flew me in the morning, and my flight out of Lexington was at 6 a.m., and it was canceled. And so I called, I'm like, "My flight was canceled, I'm so sorry." and they thought that I just missed it. And they were like, if she just missed it, just tell her don't even bother coming. I'm like, no, I swear it was canceled. Like, I promise, I'm here waiting in the tiny Lexington airport. It's canceled. And so they finally got to Jacksonville, boom, boom, boom. I interviewed with like 15 people, back to back to back, just drilling me left and right. What's your background? What's, everything you can ever imagine. I actually had one person ask me a really difficult question, and he asked me, if you could take back anything, what is something you regret not doing? And I was like, oh gosh, well, I don't know, because my college was actually perfect. I mean, I don't think you can find a more perfect college experience than Athens. I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. So that was a curveball, but it was an intense interview process, and after, I was just totally beat. And then, of course, my flight out was canceled, so I spent the night. I was like, I've been in this skirt for 24 hours. So just traumatized, but it made it all better when they called back and offered the job. So.
You said they kind of randomly called you. Do you know how they?
Yeah, and I probably should have told y'all, this is another key part. You have no idea how big networking is in the football world. It is, like, people say football's like a fraternity. They're not kidding. Like, you see a head coach get a head coaching job, he brings his boys with him. His boy from wherever is going to be his offensive coordinator. His other boy is going to be his defense. That's just how it goes. It is a fraternity. And I, graduating, wanted to work for the Titans. I had made this connection with the director of scouting with the Titans, and I wanted to work there so bad. And I thought they were interviewing for the same position I got hired for the Jaguars, where they're interviewing. And I just was devastated when I didn't get it. And I just graduated from college, and I had tons of internship experience, but no real football. Like, Kentucky is what gave me that. That's why I say Kentucky was really so important. So he actually was close with our GM at the Jaguars, and we're a new staff. Like, our GM and staff, we're just in our second season, so we're trying to build something in Jacksonville. But he knew that they were hiring, and he was like, I have a perfect girl for you. Bring her in, interview her. If you like her, I think she'd be awesome. This man from the Titans, who I had never even met in person at that point, just made that connection, continued to try to stay in touch with him, continued to, just ask him little bits of advice. What do you think I can do? How can I? Most people will give you genuine advice. And he gave my resume to him, and Dave called me, and I went in and interviewed and got lucky and got it. Yeah, networking is huge. And I can't even stress it enough. Networking is huge, because people bring in their people, and all it takes is just for you to get that first job or that first volunteer experience and prove yourself. I'm a hard worker. I'm awesome, right? And then just once that person is like, oh man, yeah, you're awesome. When they get their job, they're going to bring you with them, which is, that's just how football works, and how how sports work, period. So.
You said that you worked in Kentucky. How did you stand out there? I know it's all about making a good impression, good impact. How did you differentiate yourself?
Not complaining. Like, it's a total grind, and people will just it's such a grind that people will really get down and out and like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? I can't believe they're asking us to do this. It's 9 o'clock at night. Like, this is insane. I haven't stopped work, but keep a positive attitude. And as corny as that sounds, I don't mean it in a corny way, but no one wants someone around who's just bringing everyone else down. No one wants that. And so, they joke with the Jaguars, all my bosses joke, and they say, I'm their little scouting stick of dynamite. But that's just, I make an effort to be positive and just, hey guys, whatever. Not to that extreme, but it's actually exhausting. I get home and I'm like, I'm just done. But, make that impression and just work as hard as you can, pretty much.
Yeah, one last question.
Would you say it's easier to get in on the business side than the football side?
I'd say if you have experience, yes. Solely because the business side has a lot more opportunity. There's marketing, ticket sales, group sales, customer relations, events, you know, like everything. I mean, they have tons of positions over there. They're very competitive positions, and they bring in the best of the best. But the only reason I would say it is easier than the football side is because the football side doesn't have that many positions. You know, we only have a set number of coaches. We have a set number of scouts, and that's it. But when you have as many departments as the business side, there's more opportunity.
Okay, unfortunately, we're running out of time. And if you guys really want to win NFL fantasy football, this is the person who knows everything about every player.
I miss it so much.
So let's give her another round of applause. A small gift from Center for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And y'all, I had a box of my cards to bring y'all, and naturally I left them on my desk. So
I have her contact.
he has my contact information, email address, phone number. I graduated 2 years ago. Like, I know what it's like to be where y'all are. I mean, I was there. So please hit me up. I'll answer any questions or help you in any way I can. So.
How about